Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm glad to have with me once again Auryn Bebek. He's the executive chairman of Auryn Resources. Auryn Resources is a gold exploration company, and the reason that I've added this company to my own newsletter portfolio and why I own the shares in Auryn is because of the track record of the management of this company, headed by Auryn and his partner, Sean Wallace. Before I go any further, perhaps I should mention that the company trades in Toronto under the symbol AUG, and it trades in the United States where I've purchased it under the symbol GGTCF, trading around a little over $1 in U.S. money, 49 million shares only outstanding, giving it a market cap of around U.S. $50 million. Well, some of you may remember Auryn from 2014 when he was on this show. We talked about Cayden Resources, which was one of the few companies in 2014 to do exceptionally well. And they did that by discovering and advancing a gold deposit in Mexico that was purchased by Agnico Eagle. Actually, the company Cayden was purchased. It had other assets besides the flagship, but it was purchased for $205 million in a very difficult market, as you'll recall, 2014. Shareholders, including yours truly, did very well, and so I appreciate that. Auryn's business and financing skills are joined with the geological skills of his partner, Sean Wallace. Sean and his team of geologists hunt down highly prospective projects, and Auryn raises the money just to put enough drill holes down in the ground or to take the project as far as he can to optimize shareholder value. The Cayden success was certainly not the first one. The Bebek Wallace team, both were co-founders of Cayden Resources, now Asanko Gold, which is a commercial success. It went into production last year, expected to produce about 400,000 ounces of gold this year. So the track record is there. Several months ago, Sean Wallace was here to first tell us about Auryn's project in Nunavut. There is never anything certain in the world of mineral exploration, that's for sure. But given the method of operation on the part of the Bebek Wallace team, I believe the odds strongly favor still another success, this time for shareholders of Auryn Resources. So I'm very pleased to welcome Auryn back to this show. Thanks for joining me today, Auryn.
Great. Thank you very much, Jay. It's a real pleasure to be back.
Always fun to talk to you because you bring with you an excitement that is, I would say, not all that common, especially coming out of a bear market like we've just come out of. But it's always good to talk to you. You get my blood moving through my veins more rapidly than many other people I talk to.
Thank you very much.
It really is. I mean, excitement, obviously, you have reasons to be excited, which we're going to hear about. Sean introduced the story, of your 100% owned Committee Bay gold copper project, but that was several months ago. So for the sake of those that may have forgotten or may not have heard about the story yet, could you please give us an overview of the Committee Bay project and what you're planning to do into this year with that project?
Sure. On the back of Cayden's success, obviously, we weren't done. We wanted to do more. And, while I was in the process of selling Cayden to Agnico, Sean was with our chief technical person. They were hunting down the planet to find the next biggest, best gold thing. How do we do something better than we did with Cayden or with Keegan, which were two great successes for us? And that's kind of been our theme. And they looked at about 150 projects, and I was coming out of the Cayden cloud of joy in a bad market, and I wasn't fully looped in on what these guys had gotten a hold of. And then I quickly learned last summer that we acquired 300 kilometer long greenstone belt with several high-grade gold occurrences throughout the belt, and a start of a deposit of about 1.3 million ounces of just over 8 grams per ton, which is extremely rich in terms of grade. But that wasn't the impressive part, because that part of the world, you need at least 4 or 5 million ounces of 6 grams to be excited, and that kind of is the theme of the Arctic, what people are finding there. But the prospectivity of the entire belt is what blew us away. And if you look at our website, we have a nice video that kind of flies you through the entire belt and what we're going to do this summer. You'll get a chance to see a lot of different targets. And, there was a theme in Keegan when we found Asase, and the comment was, there's gold everywhere here. And there was. We got to 5 million ounces, eventually took over a neighboring asset for 10 million ounces as a total gold resource. In Mexico, we got there. There was, a few 100,000 ounces we eyeballed, and we drilled something that still wasn't a resource when we sold it, but it looked like it'd be 1.5 million to 2 million ounces on its way to more. And the one difference here in the Arctic is I could take Keegan and Caden and I could put them up against a couple of the 30 or 40 targets that we're going to go explore over the next few years, and they would compete with just one of those targets, and that kind of gives you a chance to understand the scalability. The second comment I'll make is I talked about grade, and grade is really the king in any market, good or bad. It solves all problems, and it can take you to tough parts of the world to be, or it can survive in a bad market because it brings your cost or the profit margin will remain intact. Every target we have here, and there's a lot of them, they have grade. So there's gold everywhere, but there's grade everywhere. And when I talk about that, and what gets me excited and keeps me up is there's a target not too far from that 1,000,003 ounces of 8 grams at 3 Bluffs that is very expandable. We think that will grow, into the 3 to 5 million ounce range, or possibly further. From recent data, we're starting to find out about it. But this target is slightly north. It's probably about 5 or 10 kilometers to the north. It's an entirely different trend that's parallel, but it's not part of the same system, which is a good thing. But what we're learning is there's averaging 8 to 10 grams across 8 kilometers along a big structure with up to 190 grams per ton gold. Never drilled by anyone else. Same geological signature that we have at 3 Bluffs that's running 8 grams. That's one target in one area. If you look at 3 Bluffs and the nearby surrounding, we have about 4 or 5 targets that I could get into details about that are like that. But you go look down the belt 100 kilometers away and you'll hear about our Enuri corridor. There's 32-kilometer long structure we found. One side of it has gold all over it. The other side has no gold on it, which confirms that it is a structural break in the earth. And the ice direction basically smeared the gold to one direction. Again, nobody drilled this structure. The amount of gold that's near it goes up to 300 grams. There's several 5, 6, 8 grams per ton. Very close to it on a boulder train. So there's gold and there's grade everywhere. And so what Sean and I did was we've tried to find the biggest and the best, and I think we overshot that in a very good way. And we leveraged pretty significantly to expand both our technical team and our marketing team, because you need both of those going in full force to make these discoveries and create wealth for your investors. But the technical team is led by a guy by the name of Michael Henriksen. You'll hear his voice in our video, and he'll fly you through the project and of where it is today. And I think even not being a geologist, you'll get a handle of how big this really could be. He's assembled a team of world experts, a geologist from his Newmont days, which is where he came from, and he was a structural geologist that had seen everything Newmont had around the world, how these deposits were discovered, how they were created, how they behaved, and he's taken that team that's now retired and moved on from Newmont. He's assembled them in our little junior, and the stuff he's doing is going to be what leads us to, I think, several very big discoveries along this belt.
Well, that's really exciting to have a team of that caliber with a junior mining company with $50 million market cap is very impressive. And I should tell our listeners it's aurynresources.com, AURYN resources.com. Go there to watch that video and to learn more about the company for sure. Well, I want to ask you, Ivan. You have a very prestigious neighbor up there, one you're quite familiar with from your Caden days, Agnico Eagle. They're active up in the Nunavut, and they're producing gold and producing it very efficiently. I think it's something around $600 an ounce. I think last year, or maybe it was the first year, they started producing about 380,000 ounces, but it must give you some comfort, I would imagine, to have a neighbor of that caliber up there demonstrating that it can be done, that you can produce gold very profitably in that frigid area of the north.
Yes, I'll start off by saying it's a complete coincidence that the company that bought our last company, one of our most respected major that we've had a chance in terms of how they run their business and having low-cost producing mines in great jurisdictions, that they're our neighbor. We didn't plan it this way. It just happened to be this way, but I think you're seeing two technical teams that think alike, and obviously they're a major. They have bigger capacities, to buy us or to go and explore more aggressively and spend more money, which they're doing. But I just caught Sean Boyd's video on Kitco on the BMO coverage, and I listened to him talk about Nunavut, and I know some other comments he's made as well. And the endowment of gold up there and the grade of gold is what's going to make his company and our company, once we make discoveries, a lot of money and provide that lower cash cost per ounce. He made a comment that really resonates really strong with me, and we'll talk a bit about geopolitical jurisdictions worldwide, because there's gold mines everywhere. And he said, you can get business done up there, and you can go build mines. And that's something that's really significant, and shareholders should think about that, because we've done business in Africa. We were very successful there doing it, and then we did business in Mexico. But what shareholders don't know is how many flights a year I was on for Africa, and how less I had to go on the road for Mexico, how much easier it was to get a premium in Mexico versus Africa. And if I go through the list of countries worldwide, south and northern parts of the hemisphere, I mean, there's some places that would be amazing gold deposits. We know they're there, but you can't get into Russia or Kazakhstan. It's just not going to work right now. So we're doing it again for the third time, and we said to ourselves, okay, there's something really good in Canada. How good is it, and how good could this be going forward? And, last year, and you'll see it this year, there's been a lot of insiders purchasing more shares. And we're doing this for the reason of greed, because we see the value in a Canadian gold discovery. And when you think about where you're putting your money and some of these things you invest into, the only challenge is, and I'll touch on a comment you made, is the cold weather that you go through in the winter. And so you can produce year-round, but exploring, you get a little bit limited. You get about 6 months of the year of low-cost exploring. You could drill year-round if you want to. I think on our website you'll see a picture of our drills that are all encased, which would allow you to do that. You would want to do that in a more aggressive gold market where you have a really good currency and you're not diluting as much to go expand a big discovery. But in this market here, you look around, you look at TMAC, they're about to produce. That's the Hope Bay asset. Their stock is performing extremely well. It went public last summer, and that's a 4.5 to 5 million ounces of 9 grams per ton. You look at Sabina was a really big win for the markets in the last bull market, but they were caught going into feasibility on the falling market. Of course, they went into the penalty box, but I think they have some great deposits, and they're going to find quite a bit more. A comment that I've been hearing is that the gold endowment in the Arctic may surpass Quebec and the Abitibi gold belts. And what your shareholders and what investors have to realize is when we talk about high-grade gold anywhere in the world, but primarily in a place like Canada, and you think about every discovery hole that you drill, you're finding a lot more ounces when it's great. And that's something that is important, because you get to a big discovery a lot quicker than it would take in a lower grade deposit like our previous discoveries.
What can you tell us about your drill program this year? What is it designed to accomplish, and when will you begin that, and when might we see some results?
So we're going to plan to drill about 10,000 meters right now, and we're just designing that program as we speak. We're going to test at least 3 or 4 different areas of the belt, and then we've only explored the bottom 1/3 of the belt, and we came up with a series of targets from last summer. We're actually going to do the other 2/3 in terms of geophysics, till sampling, a lot of the exploration you do before drilling. But the drilling we do is purely discovery focused. We could go and be conservative and slowly add ounces to 3 bluffs and grow a resource and be safe. But you don't do well being safe, and we know that's there. That's the easy one. I think a lot of people technically who look at it can assume that's going to get bigger, and you could do it moderately. What we're going for that major discovery hole, the one that gives you that very big reaction in your share price and allows you to go raise a lot more money and do a much more aggressive program next year. This year we're planning 10,000 meters. Next year we'd like to do triple that, 30,000 meters up there. And, we've geared ourselves up for discovery. I think that's something that shareholders can look forward to. We're drilling at least 100 holes. Some of them will be deeper. A lot of them will be shallower, just to find the easy high-grade gold. Everything is right from surface. And, I think you'll hear us marketing quite a bit before we go drilling this summer, because we want to give everyone a chance to see what we're doing and how big the prize is before we go drilling and hit our first discovery holes. So, we're buying it as insiders. We're buying it because we want to own more before that happens. And we think this will be our discovery year on Committee Bay. We think it'll be really big for us.
All right, Committee Bay looks really exciting. That's why it's in my newsletter. But you're also looking other places, and I know you have a very rigorous screening process, and I don't know if we have time to get into that, but I know that you just announced recently that you've acquired quite a big land package in Peru. What can you tell us about Peru? What do you see down there that's got you excited?
So just a bit of information for the audience. Peru has the world's largest gold mine in Yanacocha, or one of them, 60 million ounces of gold and a huge amount of silver. I don't know the exact number, but the gentlemen we're working with, they're all former Newmont. They know Peru like the back of their hands, and they love Peru. And they love Peru because they're big systems. Oxide gold, which is the more profitable gold that you can mine, you look for two things. You either look for grade or you look for oxide. And oxide meaning the most processable, cheapest thing to produce. And when you take what's been found in Peru and you look at some of the size of the gold mines discovered there, you think, wow, it's impressive, 60 million ounces. I mean, that's unheard of. And you take the experts that were part of putting that together and that were part of exploring that, and you say, is there anything else in Peru you like? And that's what these guys are coming up with. It dawned on me the other day, we're in Toronto and New York marketing our company, and I'm listening to Michael, our chief technical person, talk about everything and the type of projects that he's looking for with his technical team, because they're all from Newmont, are the type of projects that would move the needle for a major like Newmont, which is one of the biggest gold companies in the world. And so we've announced an acquisition of some hectares. We haven't given much details. There's a few more things that we've mentioned that we're looking to acquire. And when these things come in, I can assure you that they will fall very comfortably into this big look that I'm talking about. Not necessarily a 60 million ounce target. We don't need to be that big. That's once in a lifetime for all mining companies in the world. But, something in the range of a 5 to 10 million ounce oxide deposit would be something that we'd hope to come out of in Peru. Acquiring Peru is really, really an obvious move for us because it is another really good geopolitical place to be, but the experience with the Newmont technical team is unheard of, and that's something we have to leverage. But also, it's a double-edged sword. It gives us a chance to be drilling 12 months of the year. And as you very well know, discovery is what makes shareholders have returns. It leads to takeovers and so on. Our discovery drilling will start this summer and be ongoing for the next few years, or until we get to that better good of a takeout or something like we saw with Caden, or maybe to a very fortuitous share price, like we saw in both of our previous companies. And so that's what's exciting for me as well. Our group well, what we've done in the past. I'd say we've done a lot more with a lot less. And when I compare it to just Peru or just the Arctic, that's how good these assets are. And the reason why they're that much better this time is because the technical team got a lot deeper. I kind of say it's like the Mayo Clinic for people. If you ever been to the Mayo Clinic or to your regular doctor, you go to a regular doctor, you see one doctor, you say, look, I'm sick, I don't feel well, what's wrong with me? The doctor starts to try and go through their book of knowledge and figure out what's wrong, and they play with a few different hats and they try to guess. If you go to the Mayo Clinic, and hopefully people don't have to go there, but if you go there, the process is 7 or 8 specialists from different parts of your body will analyze different tests, and these are all specialists specific to an aspect of your body. What they do next is they sit in a boardroom and they discuss their findings, and then they sit you down in the boardroom after all of that is done, and they give you the prognosis. That's how you get the best, most rounded, most intelligent response or most accurate prognosis. That's what we're doing in the exploration model, taking different specialists, about 7 or 8 of them at least, and they're all applying their major skill set, their career-long skill set. They're putting it together, they're sitting down in one room, and they're weighing all of their findings, and they're coming out with targets in Committee Bay. They're coming out with acquisitions and targets that you'll see in Peru. These are some of the best guys that I've seen in the business, and I say that with a lot of respect, and their track records would show it, but I think shareholders can expect a lot from them. I certainly do, and you'll see that in the months to come.
All right, Ivan, how well funded are you to carry out and to finance your drill program, your exploration program in the Nunavut this year?
So in terms of funding, Jay, because of our recent success and the fact that we are able to finance part of our financings ourselves, and we like to participate that way. We get offered a lot of money. The project certainly got a lot of attention, and we're working towards adding more. We have about $3.5 million in our treasury, which certainly doesn't cover what we're going to spend in Committee Bay, but what we are planning to do for a funding there will be very fortuitous to our share price and for our current shareholders.
Well, Ivan, I know that you are sincerely saying that because members of the management team have been buying shares. I mentioned earlier that there are only about 49 million shares outstanding. Could you give us a sense before we conclude our discussion today, how much of that is insider owned of those 49 million shares? Can you give us a sense of how much is in the float perhaps as well?
Yeah, okay, well, great question. I think as insiders, we own about just over 20%, and that number is increasing daily if you follow our insider filings. And, a lot of people ask me, why are you buying so much of your own stock? And, I mean, it's not really the question to ask, but here's the answer, is because I'm greedy and I know what we have here and what we're going to do with it. And that goes for other people in the management team. Our share price is certainly performing better than most, so we're not doing it to support our company. We do love being aligned with shareholders, and that's something we like to demonstrate as much as we have enthusiasm. We're excited, and we're talking about some major world-class discoveries that we plan to do here. But ultimately, I'll be honest, I'm greedy. I have a lot of choices to buy a lot of different gold companies, and I have, but my largest continual purchase is our own company, and I can't find another company out there that has a comparable asset and scale or a comparable technical team to go with it. There's some very good companies and some very good assets out there, but nothing with 300 kilometers long, an entire gold belt, with the kind of grades that we're seeing along Committee Bay. And so, I think for us, it's a very easy decision for us to make as investors to be buying our own company. On the flip side, the other question you asked was, what's the float like? I'd say, 90 or 80% of our float is people who followed us from the past. And I'd say that out of 49 million shares out, we could probably talk to about 40 of them into, one large boardroom. And this is what happens when you have successful deals repeating time after time. You tend to get a very good reputation and a very good business model that people like to support and continually finance. So I know we're meeting some new investors that didn't get a chance to invest into Caden. Some people would not buy Caden because there was not an actual resource publicly announced, and they missed out because we sold the company prior. In the case of Committee Bay, the type of targets we're drilling could lead to the same path Caden went to, but we want to be a lot more defensive and hold on to this a lot longer because the prize is much bigger and because we're going towards a rising gold market.
Right.
Those two things make it very easy for us to own more of our own company, hold on to this a bit longer, and the targets are endless and they're very big and the grade is really good.